Why humanized mice? Well, because they mimic human beings. Daszak and his collaborators wanted to make viruses more infectious to people. He didn't hide this. In December of 2019, Daszak appeared on a podcast on YouTube, which is owned by Google, by the way, to brag about how easy it is in the lab to manipulate bat coronaviruses.
Coronaviruses are pretty good. I mean, you're a virologist, you know all this stuff, but you can manipulate them in the lab pretty easily. It's just spike protein drives a lot of what happens with the coronavirus, zoonotic risk. So you can get the sequence, you can build the protein, and we work with Ralph Barrick at UNC to do this. Insert it into a backbone of another virus, and do some work in the lab.
So really, in one of the great kind of head-hitting moments in recent history, we learn that the guy directly tied to bat virus experiments in the lab in Wuhan was the very same guy telling the entire world that there was no possibility this virus could have come from the Wuhan lab. Conflict of interest, anyone? It's absurd. It's beyond belief. What's amazing is that Google knew this. The evidence was right there on one of its own platforms, YouTube, which it owns. So why did Google continue to rely on Peter Daszak, of all people on Earth, to decide what the rest of the population could know about the origins of COVID? That is the answer. Tonight we know why. It turns out that Tony Fauci was not the only one funding Peter Daszak's research on bat viruses. Google was funding that research too. It sounds unlikely, but we know it. We know this from a new piece in the National Pulse, which just published the evidence. And here's the evidence. Peter Daszak admitted it in print. We don't need to speculate. It's right there. Beginning in 2010, several of Daszak's research papers explicitly acknowledged that they were funded by Google. One of those papers was an observational study that analyzed the transmission of viruses from bats to humans, in this case in Bangladesh. Quote, proximity of bats to human populations may facilitate the transmission of viruses either through direct contact or through foodborne routes.